Hello, hi everyone. Thanks for joining in. We'll be starting the session in a couple of minutes. Just waiting for a couple of more people to join. I hope you guys can hear us. Just let us know, give a thumbs up if you can hear us properly. Okay, great. Nishank will be starting the session in a couple of minutes. He's the CEO of our company, Masters India. Wait for a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. And firstly, a very happy new year to all of you. We'll be starting the session now. So I'll be sharing my screen. Let me know if you're able to view it and through by typing in chat box that you have. Please do confirm if you're able to see the screen and you're able to hear my voice as well, loud and clear. In case you are unable to hear it during the webinar, do let us know through chat message. And if you have any questions as well about what I'm presenting or what my colleague Sham will also be presenting in some time, please do let us know through chat. We'll be happy to take all the questions at the end of the session. So this webinar is about accounts payable. Masters India has been creating a new solution to help companies automate their accounts payable. Now, there's a very interesting story around it, why we decided to actually work on this problem, what exactly we face that which led us to basically create an AP solution. So I'll quickly talk about that before we actually go on to talk about what solution we have created. So as a customer to a lot of large enterprises, we today work with more than 700 enterprises, process roughly 4% of India's all invoices, 8% of all the e-bills generated through API, which in total translates into 3% of country's GDP going through us to be reported to the government. What we realize, while a lot of companies continue to use very complicated fancy ERPs such as SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, and other ERPs, the challenge in terms of vendor payment and communication essentially still remains with basically the companies, wherein a lot of effort is consumed processing bills, communicating with vendors the status of POs, their invoices and payments, and eventually making those payments. And what we saw was that this experience should be improved not only for us as a vendor, for basically from an enterprise perspective as well as vendor perspective, but also from basically basically the enterprise perspective in terms of resources that they were using to basically have these communications on basically regular basis. And secondly, what we also realized while we were basically trying to build the solution over past 1 year, we realized that there is another opportunity that is coming up due to introduction of e-invoicing, which makes this solution much more relevant in today's day and age, wherein e-invoice will now become very soon will become available for businesses to fetch. So as of now, businesses are only generating e-invoices. They're not able to fetch e-invoices generated by their suppliers. Now government is basically taking two steps in regards to this. One, they will be releasing fetch API very soon, which means you'll be able to generate e-invoices that are being generated by your supplier. Secondly, you'll also all the businesses in the country will be generating e-invoices. So right now government is building the infrastructure that is required to support country at the invoicing at national level. But in next 6 to 12 months, we are going to see introduction of e-invoicing for all businesses as well as fetch API. So that makes it very interesting from the solutioning perspective, which I'll talk about a little bit when we reach to the solution part. But what I was talking about is that essentially we wanted to basically benefit from this new trend that was happening in the country and actually globally, and also improve the experience that we as vendors have with some of the large enterprises, wherein we see issues both at vendor and enterprise side. So what you might be seeing on the screen is a process. Some of you, I know, that have automated a lot of it. With some customers attending the webinar, I understand that a lot of processes are automated. For some, you're still in early days of automating it, but there is some progress. So what we see is that bills are coming in today, both physically and on email, and essentially these bills are either being printed. If there's no DMS, if there's a DMS, bills are being scanned and they're being stored in this DMS, and someone is then manually doing the data entry. If there's a lot of basically, if these are physical goods invoices, then there's GRN happening before invoice entry is passed. Otherwise, there is essentially invoice entry directly for service invoices. In some cases, we also see basically SRN. Then these invoices are manually passed for routing in case there is no approval, wherein there is a lot of inter-office communication that happens, that okay, who has raised this bill, why this bill has been raised, so on and so forth. A lot of time what will happen is that the vendor will also come and ask for the information, such as where is my invoice, what happened to the payment for this particular invoice, will there be a PO renewal, and all of this basically gets communicated to the person who bought the services. For example, if CIO has given a go ahead, the vendor might directly reach out to CIO, but CIO is not the right person to actually communicate all of this, and they loop in someone, and then further they loop in someone, and by the time basically the vendor gets a response or there's a closure on the email, we already have 6-7 emails in that trail, and then a lot of time has been spent. And finally, although very less companies do this now, but finally some checks are signed, they are posted, and essentially otherwise generally SAP or the ERP system, whichever the company is using, is connected to the banking system through a file-based system, and a file goes out and payments are made. And then a paper-based system is there generally to check to audit at future dates in case there's a DMS, so that is also used for audit purposes. So we saw this process as manual, paper intensive, and time consuming, especially in the day and age of e-invoicing and digital communication. And we thought that we'll work towards improving it, simplifying it much further. So what do we mean by that? What we wanted to do was to automate the process, make it paperless and much more efficient for our enterprise customers. So the idea is that somehow all the bills that an enterprise is receiving should be through an email based system. So it could very well be invoices or AP invoice or bills at abccompany.com, and once these bills are in, our AI based system, which is basically powered by our government APIs as well, wherein we try to benefit from the e-bill API as of now, and future e-invoice APIs to improve the AI OCR results. And then once the bills have been parsed, then they go on for approval, and these approvals can be made from any online devices, therefore making it digital first, making it basically work from home first. So today, as of now, most of the businesses are having flexible working arrangements with their employees, and with COVID coming in and going out, we don't know when it will stop. So we see that having a solution that works on mobile as well as laptops and your computers is very, very critical. So therefore, approving the bills from any device becomes critical. And thirdly, the data is synced back to the ERP, where the system, which is the knowledge, which is the source system essentially, which at the end of the day is used for accounting and audit purposes. So that data should sync back to the ERP. So with these three things in mind, we ventured out and actually built a solution which we want to show it to you. So what we did specifically is that we eliminated stack of papers essentially by digitalizing all the bills. So essentially, as of now, each and every vendor is generating a invoice through a software, and this software provides a PDF file which is then printed in a lot of cases and posted through and then people receive it physically, or sometimes it is basically that PDF file is printed, scanned, and then sent to the customer, which basically does not make sense. So idea is to get these PDF files directly from your vendors, and then to route the bills from one approver to another, and also at the same time enable a system wherein the vendor doesn't have to reach out to AP teams or the buying teams to basically to understand what happened to their PO, what happened to the invoice, what happened to the payment. All of this should be made visible. Now ERPs can't be exposed to the world, but a vendor portal can be offered, which will make the life of the vendors as well as the buying teams much more simpler and easier. And obviously we would want to enable data sync with the ERP, like all our solutions have, wherein the data is synced back to the ERP, or if there's any data that is generated from the ERP like a PO is reflected into our vendor portal. So what exactly is our solution? So what we are offering is a invoice inbox, wherein companies can now create an invoice inbox such as ap@abccompany.com, and they can ask all their vendors to start sending emails to this inbox with the invoice. And our system will, using technology of AI, read the invoices, extract the data, and show it to the AP team so they can further review it, make any changes if there are any inaccuracies, and correct it. Now, interestingly, what we are doing, which is unique in this case, is that we have plugged in the e-waybill data. So in case there's a physical invoice and e-waybill exists for it, we are powering our AI results with e-waybill data, which makes it much more accurate than anything that is present in the market. And going forward, once fetch e-invoice APIs are available, we are going to plug that. So taking accuracy to a whole new level, which hasn't been seen in the market. So essentially, therefore enabling a lot of reduction of a lot of manual work. And then there are other options like drag and drop, wherein you or your vendor can drop the invoices, since they would have access to this portal. And the smaller vendors can even use our UI based invoice generator to generate invoices on this portal. Then there'll be a bill approval system, wherein as soon as invoices are received and saved for further processing, and bill approval system is triggered, wherein there's a three-way matching that is happening. So some the ERPs, some of our customers are already using ERP, so there's that already available. So this is an optional module. In case there is no PO, then this three-way matching engine can enable for approvals, wherein the concerned person from concerned department or for a certain amount of value for a certain GST and can get an alert with that the vendor has provided an invoice, so this must be approved. Excuse me. So what we are saying here is that approvals need not be on email, they need not be on basically need not be physical or manual. These are systems are built with auto notification, so the as soon as the invoice is accepted, it is routed for approval. So what we are also trying to do is provide some insight into data that companies are already having. So what we saw is that while Excels are very good at data insights for a couple of months, but when you start looking at multi-year or at a very data intensive level, such as 50,000 plus invoices and then thousands of vendors, Excel, basically it's very difficult to get a lot of insights from Excel. So we have tried to create certain dashboards so buying teams, vendor teams can basically benefit from these insights and take smarter decisions. Vendor onboarding in this portal is going to be very simple. As soon as you add the email and the phone number of the vendor, automatically an email will go out. What we also saw was that a lot of times the vendor data is not updated in the ERP portal. So this allows vendors to update the data and then it to be synced back to the ERP. It also allows them to basically upload different type of files that companies are also looking for. So recently when MSME compliances were implemented, a lot of companies were asking for MSME certificates on emails, and tracking those can be a challenge. Using this tool, it becomes very easy to ask your vendors to upload their MSME certificate, and that can be then fetched using this portal and can be recorded in this portal or somewhere else as well. So as I said, the tool initially started out of basically started from frustration that we had in terms of getting an understanding of where the PO invoice or the payment was. So the tool itself comes with a vendor portal wherein these vendors can look at the PO that has been issued to them, what the invoices that they have issued against these invoices, against these POs, and the payment status that is there in terms of this the invoices that they have issued to you as a buyer. So this brings in a lot of transparency. So there are chats and communication tools which we'll be showing to you, and how that sort of enables vendors to sort of have a updated status of POs, invoices, and payments all the time, instead of reaching out to the buying teams, therefore significantly reducing communication. As I said, this there is a very critical component that this tool should integrate with each and every ERP, and that is how it works as well. So we integrate with all leading ERPs, and these are open API and FTP based systems, so both are available. So any other ERP can be integrated as well with this tool. So this was on the presentation side. Now, what I'll do is I'll ask my colleague Sham to just quickly share his screen and sort of present the portal to everyone here. Sham, if you can hear me, if you can share your screen, I'll just stop sharing my screen. Switch off the video. Yeah, thank you. If you can just move to the AP screen. Yes. So this is how the portal looks like now. Both enterprises as well as the vendors will get access to this portal. They will have limited information, as in whatever they have issued, whereas the AP teams here, based on permissions, can see everything from orders to completed to pending to cancelled, so on and so forth. Now this, Sham, if you can go to the PO screen. So this portal shows how many POs have been issued, and what are the basically invoices against those POs. One can initiate communications against these POs, and also check the invoices that have been issued in the system. So if you can click the invoicing bit, Ram, and if you can have a business with some data, okay, great. So essentially, data can be, as I said, the data can be imported into the system using a email box. If you can show us the invoice inbox functionality, Sham. So emails, as your vendors might be sending, will sort of reflect here in the inbox, wherein these invoices will be auto read by our system, and the users can review and save these invoices. So now they are maintained in the system. Therefore, ability to find these invoices is fairly simple. As you can see, the data has been auto populated. If you can open some of these fields. Yeah. So invoice number has been populated, date has been populated, e-way bill number has been populated. Now as I said, what we offer is that e-way bill number is uniquely populated, is not only populated, but we also use that data to improve our OCR and AI tech. So the data that is read is much more accurate in case of goods invoices. And going forward, we'll be plugging in the e-invoice system as well. Now, once the data is in, you can review and save it, and it will then be routed through an approval engine which exists for non-PO based invoices, wherein that approval engine will enable companies to basically uh, get the appropriate approvals from relevant people in different departments, wherein what is the status of the invoice can also be seen through an audit trail based system, wherein whether the invoice was approved or not, and if it is pending, where it is pending. So based on number of stages that have been configured, this audit trail is automatically updated and shown to users. And then there are other settings as well, and then there are other specifics of this solution which basically can be used, such as this is a multi-user multi-business system with a lot of other configurations that enable companies to benefit from this. But for this purposes of this webinar, we'll be just talking about some of these core features which we have shown to you, and we can then have a detailed one-to-one discussions. I see a lot of customers today attending. We can have detailed discussion with specific scenarios, since this is a big system, specific scenarios, and take those into account while looking at it. So I would like to basically ask everyone now, if anyone has any questions. Sham, you can stop sharing the screen. That's really helpful. Okay, so we have one question. What about GRN provisions? So if you can expand on that, that will be really helpful. When you say, so I understand a good receipt note. So you would like to populate the GRN using invoice data in your ERP. Is that the correct understanding? Great. So certainly, once the invoice is recorded in this system, the data can flow back to your ERP system, whichever you might be using, SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, or any other for that matter. And that data will then can be used to populate your GRN entry. Okay. Great. Thank you. So what we have seen, so we have another question. The question is basically, what set of information can be auto-read accurately? Since one invoice would have a lot of different information, how would an accounting entry be posted? So, so essentially, the system is reading essentially all the fields that are mandatory from GST perspective. So that would basically make the complete invoice to be read by our AI system. So that would include your own addresses, your supplier address, your supplier GST, and item details, description, your basically item rates, GST rates, other charges, so on and so forth. Now with AI system, as I said, AI systems are these systems are self-learning. So every time a new invoice comes to us, it goes into our training set, and we basically improve our AI system because there's a machine learning algorithm working at the back end, therefore improving the accuracy of the system over a period of time. So what we see with the PDF invoices is that these PDF invoices, if digitally sent to our system, there's an accuracy level of between 85 to 95% easily. And if in case there's an e-way bill for that particular invoice, and e-way bill is accurately generated, then obviously accuracy level reaches 100% because we use e-way bill data also to populate the information for these invoices. And once this data is extracted, it shows on the UI, wherein your AP users can see the extraction. And if they find the quality okay, they can accept that. And once it is accepted, it can then be synced back into your ERP, and an accounting entry can be posted. I hope that answers your question, Love. No, it doesn't require any manual intervention. So as soon as an invoice is added into our system, on weekly basis, we basically run it through our machine learning system, wherein the new data set, once it reaches a certain statistical size, we add it to our machine learning for our machines to basically learn and improve. So we have another questions. What about import entries and advance payments? So for bill of entry payables, we have a very separate solution wherein we are able to read, since bill of entry files are generally in .prn format or .pdf format, and they look a little bit different. So we do have a reader for bill of entry, Bhaskar, and essentially that is how it is handled. In case of advance payment, since there won't be any invoice, that would still have to be cleared from the ERP. There's no provision for it, but we can again work in case that seems to be a big area. And we are still in early stages in terms of our AP solution. This is a newly launched product. We can understand the use case and sort of see if any solution needs to be developed there. And the third question is that how the vendor rejection treatment is made in the system. So essentially, a vendor can be told that this invoice has been rejected, and a notification will be issued to the vendor, again depending on web or mobile, and or both. And essentially they will then be asked to submit an invoice again, or they will be asked to correct the invoice. So that is how the vendor rejection is handled. Does that answer your question, Bhaskar? So we have another question from Bhaskar, which says that, is it item level entry, or so we read information both at header level as well as item level, and then data can be passed at both entry, at both item and header level. So I understand that there could be PO for the invoices which are already there, and in case only quantities need to be passed, so that is a setting that can be done at the ERP level. uh, I hope that answers your question, Bhaskar. Okay. So we have another question from Radhakrishna, which basically talks about manual invoices. So in case someone has done a handwritten invoice, then the system accuracy is not that great, and we are recommending everyone, uh, large enterprises, to basically ask their vendors to send digital invoices. And in case these vendors do not have digital invoices, we have a free invoicing solution available which works on Android, iOS, and web. They can use that solution and generate invoices, deliverables, and quotations for free. So you can even we can even help you digitalize your supply chain and make life easier for you. So we have great, thank you. We have another question from Bhaskar. So how is the zero and O is being read in your system? So essentially, as I said, AI basically tries to differentiate both. Now, in cases of PDF digital invoices, results are pretty accurate, and that's why we recommend all our customers to ask their vendors to send digital PDF invoices, wherein the AI system is able to identify the difference. Whereas if the invoice is scanned and there are shadows or there are markings, it becomes a little difficult to basically check for accuracy. But what I can recommend is that please, we can basically get on one-to-one calls and have data from your side, some of the vendor invoices that you are receiving, and process that data to for you to really understand whether this will work for you or not, and whether basically this is the whether you're able to get the level of accuracy that you're looking for. So accuracy is all dependent on basically the invoice quality and a couple of factors. So basically, we can certainly, as I said, we can work through the invoices that you send us, and then we can process that invoice data, and then you can check for the accuracy at your own level. Sure. So I think there are we have another question. Can we get the presentation? Yes, we will be happy to share this presentation after demo on one-to-one basis. So as I see a lot of our own customers attending this, happy to share these presentations so you can look at it, share it internally, and even have next round of meeting to understand the solution in detail. So we had a great amount of questions coming in. Thank you all for patiently listening to us and asking all these important questions. I think this would have helped others also attending the meeting to learn more about the solution. In case anyone has any other questions, feel free to answer. Happy to answer those, and feel free to ask these questions. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about this solution, or in case anything around GST invoicing, e-bill, you would like to ask. Happy to answer that as well. Otherwise, we'll end this meeting in next 30 seconds. So we have a question on how GST reconciliation happened in the system. So GST reconciliation right now is not available in the system directly. We have a separate system for that, and that works independently of this system. Uh, so yes, so essentially, someone from the team can get in touch and share the product with you in detail, how that works and how we are solving GST reconciliation problem for some of the largest companies in the country and helping them save ITC. So great, thank you. I think we're done here. Again, thank you all for attending. It was pleasure to have you basically have you guys for the webinar today on AP. We'll be coming up with many more webinars. We are having a knowledge session very soon. Another format of webinars that we do, which are bi-weekly, wherein we try to share knowledge on GST, accounting, and related matters. So we have an upcoming webinar on search and seizure under GST, which will be by a senior partner at AMRG on 8th of January. So hopefully we'll be seeing you again in that webinar. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful evening ahead, and stay safe. Bye bye.